Hey y'all, it's your girl, Dr. Makiba, host of the Healthy Woman Podcast, a talk therapy platform curating healthy conversations so that women like you can serve God while also pursuing an optimal state of holistic health. Hey y'all, welcome to the Healthy Woman Podcast. My name is Dr. Makiba and I am your host for today. Before we get started, I just want to welcome all of our guest listeners, our guest watchers today, those who have not typically spent time with us, but they decided to scroll and pull up this podcast episode, or maybe you're on your way to work and you're listening to it. That's how I do it. Whenever I release it, I always listen to the audio on my way to work. So I listen to my own stuff. So if I can listen to it, I know you can listen to it. And I know you can also share it out to somebody else, which is the second thing that I want you to make sure you do, is to share this episode out with just one girlfriend, so that we can double our impact immediately. So before we get started, if this is your first time here, let me go ahead and give you a little bit of insight into what the Healthy Woman Podcast is all about. So, as I mentioned earlier, my name is Dr. Makiba and I am the host, but I am not a medical doctor. I am a doctor of education, which means that I am fully committed to educating women about how to live a holistically healthy lifestyle so that you're able to fulfill the purpose that God has created you for. So I personally feel that everything about us is all interconnected. And so there's not something that God is calling us to do or wants us to do in life, and we're not holistically well, meaning our mental health is not under control, our emotional health is not under control, our physical health is not under control. So if those things are out of pocket or we're not aware of how we're doing in those areas, it's going to make it really difficult for us to focus on the main thing, which is what we've been created to do. And so I tie all of that together and link all of that. And that was really the brainchild behind the platform, the Healthy Woman Podcast. I want to make sure that the women who are connected to this platform have all of the strategies, have all of the tools to be able to move forward and to also see yourself through other people. So I know that we are a human, we're human people who like community. And so we like to feel like there's a connection with other people. That's how God made us, right? We are not supposed to live this life alone and by ourselves. And so I also hope that this podcast allows you to see community in some form or fashion. So the guests that I bring onto the platform, hopefully you'll be able to see yourself through their stories. Maybe there's some type of relativity or some connection, and something that they're saying would resonate with you and allow you to be able to pull yourself out of whatever you're in to move forward. And so it again, as I've mentioned many times before, a lot of this was birthed out of my own personal journey, my own personal health journey, my own personal spiritual journey, just my own personal journeys. And God gave me the desire to use this platform for what I've described earlier. And so that's what we're all about. I said all of that to say that's what we're here for. And so I want to welcome you here. Now, the second thing I want you to do is to make sure that if you are listening to this on the Apple streaming platform, I need for you to give me a 5-star rating. Do not leave this platform without doing me that favor and letting me know what you think about the podcast, or what you think about this episode, or what you think about any episode that you've heard before. So please do me that favor, because algorithms are what makes the world go around when it comes to this technological space. And so we want to make sure that we are reaching the people that we are supposed to be reaching. And we cannot do that by ourselves. We need your help to do that. So please make sure that you're leaving a comment, and make sure you're leaving a 5-star rating on Apple. If you're on Spotify, make sure you're commenting. Make sure you're leaving a rating over there as well. And then on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, video is your choice. Please make sure that you're commenting and engaging with the episode so that we know that you're there. And then let us know what you think about that. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, what in the world are you doing? I need for you to subscribe to the YouTube channel so that as well on YouTube, we can get out to more people. All right. Now, got all of that stuff out the way. I have the most amazing guest on my podcast today. She is such a phenomenal person. As a matter of fact, so here's the thing. Let me just say this. I get the opportunity to meet people through a number of different ways. I can meet people through social media. I've developed some of the most amazing relationships on social media. I have met people through work. I've met people through just seeing somebody on the street and introducing myself, and we talk, and then we develop a relationship. And then I'm a part of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, Incorporated, and I have the awesome ability to be able to meet my sorority sisters through different people. And so today I have the pleasure of talking to a sorority sister. I have the pleasure of talking to someone who was introduced to me through another sorority sister who is a sister of mine. Everybody knows Larvetta is my sister. And so I'm really grateful to have Terisa here. Thank you so much for being here, Health Coach Terisa. So today, y'all, we're going to be talking about physical wellness. And we're probably going to talk a little bit about mental wellness, because I can tell you, if I don't know nothing else, I know that the mental wellness piece finds its way in our lives some kind of way. And so we're going to talk a little bit about physical wellness, talk about what Terisa does. I love what she's doing, as a matter of fact, because me and Terisa are in the same phase of life. And so it's always interesting to have these conversations with people who can understand where I'm coming from in this, I like to call ghetto neighborhood, being the ghetto hood. I tell people adulthood is the most ghetto hood out there, and I don't want to live here sometimes. So we're going to talk about stuff like that. But before I get started, I want to introduce this amazing, phenomenal woman that I have sitting across from me. So Terisa, Health Coach Terisa, is passionate about holistic health for midlife women. Coach Terisa guides clients through tailored wellness plans focusing on nutrition, movement, and mental well-being that best support women experiencing this pivotal life transition. Lord have mercy. We can talk about that. That thing hit me like a Mack truck, girl. As a certified health coach with over 10 years of experience and also a licensed brain health trainer, her coaching is rooted in a balanced approach to health. Clients often appreciate the compassionate yet challenging environment that she creates. For Coach Terisa, midlife wellness is a personal journey, as she has improved her own health and wellness through the very practices that she teaches. So, without further ado, welcome, my dear.
Oh, thank you for having me, Makiba. It's
I'm
a pleasure.
so glad you're here.
Yes,
because after reading what I just read, girl, we got some stuff to talk about.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Ooh, child, we got some stuff to talk about, because this whole midlife. Okay, let's talk about the rapid fire questions first.
Okay.
Let's get that out the way, because
Yes.
this conversation, we really gonna get into this conversation. So I got some rapid fire questions for you, some icebreakers, if you will.
Sure.
Number one, what's your favorite way to relax after a long day?
My favorite way to relax after a long day is to come home, strip, and put on something nice and comfortable.
Right?
And sit upon my bed.
Right. And just do nothing.
And do nothing.
And do nothing.
Yes.
Man, that's like a whole vibe right there, I think, just to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and the older that we get, the more we realize that that's a flex.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
to not do nothing.
To not do, and to just be still.
Yeah.
To just be still and reflect and just be still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a part of wellness too. We'll talk about that. But I think that is a huge part of wellness, is to just rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in this society, it's just, we're just so consumed by always having to do something, always having a place to be, someplace to go, what to do next. And, it is, it just means everything to just not do anything at all.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. Number two, one thing you can't live without.
One thing I cannot live without is good food.
Baby, listen. And that's what makes this whole transition, this life transition, so
Yes,
challenging.
yes. Yes.
D, why you laughing, man? I'm telling you, that's what makes the transition so difficult.
It
Because if
is.
we're honest, as we transition, I mean, as we get older and transition, we really can't eat like we should, like we want to. Because when we were younger, our bodies was a little bit more accommodating,
Sure.
right?
Yes.
But as we get older, it's not as accommodating.
It's not.
And but the desire to still eat is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
It's a
It is
struggle.
a struggle.
I love to eat too. And I
Yes.
have come to the realization that I have to make deals with myself. Like, today we're gonna do this, but we're not gonna do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do this the next day. But we'll do this today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Number 3, books or movies? And what I mean is, what's your preference?
Sure. Probably movies.
Do you have a favorite?
You know, my favorite movie is actually Black Panther.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was
Yeah.
one of the best movies ever made.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I loved everything about it.
Did you like the second one?
I did like the second one.
Yeah.
Not as much as the first.
Yeah. I mean, you
but-
can't really like something that doesn't include Chadwick Boseman.
Sure.
Especially when Chadwick Boseman was like the whole first movie.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. And it's interesting that I had to wait till I was in my late 40s to say that's my favorite movie ever. So
yeah. That was a good movie. That makes me want to pull it up tonight and watch it.
Yeah.
When I'm resting.
Right.
All right, that's it. So you did a great job. See, it wasn't so bad.
Not bad.
It wasn't so bad.
Yes.
All right, so Terisa, okay, so just so I can give the readers, hold on, let me sip my tea. We get ready.
Yes. Delve in.
Yes. Sipping my tea. Okay, so y'all, we're gonna talk about, so this topic that we're talking about is probably going to feel like it is for a more targeted audience. And it probably is, right? So as a matter of fact, the next another episode that I'm doing is going to be talking about menopause in particular. And so that is going to be for a more targeted audience, because a lot of what this platform was created for and from was from my experiences, right? It was over the last 3 years where after I moved to Chicago, I just noticed my body going through all these different changes.
Yeah.
And I had the hysterectomy back in 2014. And for 5 years, I was fine, but I was also living in Florida.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I was not aware of until I moved to Chicago was the differences between the clean air environment and a toxic air environment. And that was probably the threshold to me doing a lot of research and navigation on understanding menopausal and hormonal health. And so what I tell a lot of women these days, just based off of the research that I've done, and it's only been a 3-year research, like I haven't put a whole bunch of my time into researching prior. I am doing more now because I'm in it.
Right.
But what I tell a lot of people, a lot of women now, is our journey goes from women's health to women's hormonal health. And we have to see it like that, because if we keep looking at our lives through this one-dimensional lens perspective of just women's health and allowing physicians and those alike to take us on this journey through the women's health lens, we're going to miss all the stuff that's really wrong with us.
Sure.
And that's how I came across a lot of the stuff that was going on with me was I need to look at this from a hormonal health lens.
Yeah.
That's what's going on with me.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I want us to talk about you're a health coach and you're a health coach that focuses in on this life transition and how women can transition the right way with the right types of nutritional, ideas, how to approach. We've already talked about rest. In my research, I've learned how important rest is that I didn't know, because I was one of them hustle and grind people back in my early 40s and 30s. I realize now at 50, no, we're not doing that.
Right.
We're not hustling, grinding
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. So the first thing, though, that I want to introduce is you. So can you give us a little quick intro
Yeah.
of who Health Coach Terisa Hammond
Yes.
is?
Yes. Absolutely. So I am a mother. I'm a daughter. I'm a daughter-in-law, wife, sister, friend. Um, yeah. So that is, I guess I would say first and foremost that's who I am holistically, because everything touches upon all of those different roles in my life. I began my health coaching interest in health journey about 15 years ago or so after the birth of my daughter, my second child. I have a 20-year-old son in addition to that. But after I had her is when I noticed differences in my body. After my first child was born, my body just kind of bounced back, lost the weight, and just, everything was fabulous. But after the birth of my daughter, everything just kind of shifted. The weight didn't come off quite well. Just, I mean, obviously, I was a little older, but I didn't think that it would be as difficult. And so that's when I began to do a lot of research in discovering different things wrong with our healthcare system, our food system, and I just became obsessed with learning as much as I could about all of that. And so while she was still an infant, actually, I ditched the formula and and started making her almond milk. I was consulting with a natural doctor at the time, and he suggested what to do: get make some homemade fresh almond milk from scratch, and add in some supplements, and there you have it. And so that's what I did, and then I just went crazy, so to speak, from there. We got on the raw food vegan diet, and my son absolutely hated it. He was just like, "What is this? Why did we change?" But I began to get myself back, lost the weight, and began to get healthier and stronger, and all that again. So that's how I transitioned. And then what I discovered was there was so much conflicting information out there about health and nutrition and wellness and what to eat, what not to eat, what's good, what's bad. And so then I decided to get sort of a formal education so that I could help my family as well as, continue myself on this health journey. And that's when I became a health coach and started working that angle and coaching, doing talks and healthy food demonstrations. Our family created a healthy cookbook for children and families. So we were just on that path strong. And then life began lifing and just kind of changed it all up. And so I had to move away from that for a while and reprioritize things going on in my life. And then midlife began to hit me, and life began lifing even harder. And then just I just feel like I physically and mentally just kind of blew up and was becoming someone else, unrecognizable to myself. Gained a lot of weight, health food, health numbers weren't looking so great, high blood pressure, higher cholesterol, just all this kind of stuff happening. And I had zero clue as to what was happening to me. And then circling forward and to about 3 years ago, I hit menopause and still didn't even understand what was happening to me. And until about a year ago, I began doing research and realized that everything that I was feeling physically, even mentally, possibly could have been tied to this thing called menopause. And then, the bells rang, light bulbs went off, and I decided to get my stuff together, because I needed to get back to myself again and feel good about myself again. And so 2023 was that journey for me. And then in January, I started some coaching, and because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I decided to get back into health coaching and focus on this because this was my current journey. And I knew if I was in the dark, there has to be tons of other people that are in the dark that I can help. And so here I am.
So today is the day designated as me being connected with my kindred spirits, if you will. Because your story, the last part of your story sounds so much like the journey I went on 3 years ago. Like when I tell you that there was this unrecognizable person staring back, and just having like moved here and then going through this journey of 50-pound weight loss gain. Weight gain. And then numbers going up. For the first time ever was pre-diabetic. And getting all this full blood panel work and seeing all of these things. It's just crazy. My joints and my everything was hurting. I mean, it was just out of the blue, just crazy. And at that, had no idea that could have been linked to menopause at the time, because I never had the talk. So when they decided to, when I made the decision back in 2014 to actually have the hysterectomy, it was after a lot of thought, right? I had been dealing with this for a very, very long time. And so when I decided to have the surgery, my doctor, bless her heart, didn't tell me what to expect. And that's part of my problem with general medical physicians, is their information is very limited. Because their knowledge is very limited. Right. And so she didn't tell me what to expect. The only thing that she told me was, this might not totally get rid of all of your pain. She said, just because we're having this might not get rid of all, but she never told me what it meant. She never told me that when you get your ovaries removed, you're gonna go into a surgical menopause, and that will have all these other things. I ran up into that over time. So it was, as I listened to your story and as I listened to how you describe like what you went through and how you just started acknowledging that something possibly wasn't right. And it never occurred to you that it could be menopause. Like, I think those are the conversations that we have to have, because so many women don't put two and two together. So when they're getting their numbers where, oh my God, I'm pre-diabetic now, and I've never had any history of being having diabetes, or why is my cholesterol so high? Why is my my blood pressure so high? There's no automatic default to, you're a woman that's getting older and your estrogen levels are lowering.
Exactly.
Right.
0. Which is astounding to me. It just really is.
We don't even think that we all are interconnected.
No.
The body is interconnected.
Right.
So if we've been functioning with all of this, and now we're getting older and that's starting to decline, that's why your body is going crazy. So I think the conversations like this are definitely needed. So I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about, and how and why you transitioned into wellness. So now you're in the space, and I have to say, I 100% agree, and just felt myself in what you said when you said that you decided to get back into health coaching and you decided to focus in on this space, because you said to yourself, if I'm in the dark, literally had the conversation with God, and I said, Lord, how can I use my platform to help women? Because if I didn't know this stuff, I know they don't know this stuff.
Absolutely.
And that's when the podcast idea came about. So you're right. Because I have conversations with women on like the basic, and I just give them basic information. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't even know that. You have helped me so much. So you're needed. So let's talk about wellness from a holistic lens. So we know that you experienced this whole physical disruption
Mhm.
as you were going through this transition.
Mhm.
Years of different. You started. First of all, let's go back to this almond milk that you made for your baby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Kudos,
You know,
mom.
yeah. I'm telling you, yeah. I kind of, my husband probably was just like, "What is
What is she
wrong with
doing?
this
Right.
woman?"
What's she doing? But he didn't even understand because we know that cow's milk is not
It's
good
not
for
good.
us as
It's good for
humans,
baby
right?
cows.
Right. It's good
Right.
for baby cows. That's
Right.
all it's good
Right.
for.
Yeah.
So I 100% kudos to you
Yeah.
for changing that narrative and like introducing that into her diet at such a young age, because we don't even understand what we're doing to our children, our
Yeah.
younger children, when we
Mhm.
do give them the milk and stuff. And again, that was something that I read up on.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did not know. Girl.
Yeah.
I was a dairy addict.
Yeah.
I was a dairy addict for years.
Yeah.
Cheese, I had to have cheese sauces. Everything had to be
Yes.
cheese.
Mhm.
And I didn't know, even when I
Mhm.
was dealing with endometriosis, how much I was exacerbating that.
Absolutely
I didn't even know
right.
that.
Well, that was definitely one of the areas that I had researched heavily around that time, was just the impact of politics in our food system. And cheese and dairy is one of them for sure. Though, the way it's processed is just wretched,
Yeah.
quite honestly.
Yeah.
And actually I knew that even before then, because both of my children, I didn't have them on dairy formula. Breastfeeding was, I did not opt to breastfeed, which I don't regret, because I didn't know that it
Yeah.
was best, right?
Yeah.
However, I was doing soy based formula, because I remember at the time it was the explosion of the alternative to dairy. And so I had both my children on soy formula, and this natural doctor that I consulted with, I read his book and I was just blown away, like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing to my children, kind of thing. And I immediately just switched up and was just almond milk fresh twice a day, soaking nuts, blending them, flavoring the almond milk with fruit, or whatever I deemed wanted, however I wanted to make it. And yeah, supplements, and it was, yeah.
So when you made the almond milk for your daughter, did she take it? She liked it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she liked it. She enjoyed it. No reactions to it. Yeah, it was working for us.
And is almond milk dairy is still not a thing?
Yeah, correct. She continues to stay away from dairy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she doesn't even like it. She doesn't want the cheese. She doesn't, she orders everything without cheese. And my son, on the other hand, he doesn't really.
Like, he ain't buying into this.
Well, he goes back and forth, He's a foodie too, so
Yeah.
he's into cheese and cooks with cheese and stuff like that. But that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes.
So how do you think that emotional wellness, mental wellness, how do you think all of this link, just from your experience, your research, even just personal?
Yeah.
How do you think that, or do you think that there is a link?
Absolutely.
Emotional, physical, mental. Do you feel like there is a link possibly to these imbalances between one another?
Yes, I do. So in my training to be a health coach, we learned about um, primary foods and then secondary foods. Primary foods being the more of the mental health related aspects of our life, like lifestyle, your sleep, your outlook in terms of your relationships, you as self-reflective of yourself, relationships, career, money, um, your outlook, your how positive you are, Those kinds of things feed into you as much as food does and nutrition. So I absolutely believe that there is a complete link, because we also know that if there's an imbalance mentally, if you're going through something mentally and emotionally, it will impact you physically. It lives in your body, and you can have physical reactions based on what's going on with you mentally and emotionally too.
Right.
And so, yes, they are definitely intertwined. Um, for my own physical health, um, I think I mentioned that life was lifing at the time. My body was changing. And so I wasn't even sure if, and because everything kind of crashed all at once, converged together all at one time. So I didn't know if it was, you know, is what I'm going through mentally impacting me physically, or like I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so, I'd like to think that what I was dealing with was emotionally um, disturbing, right? Deaths in the family, grief, um, marital challenges, teenage children,
Right. Just kind of attributing it all to that.
So yeah, you would think that that would have an emotional impact on you,
Right.
and whatnot. But who would have thought that perimenopause and menopause would have brought on additional mental strain as well? So, so in going through everything that I was going through physically, I knew personally that there was no way that I could get anything under control until I got my eating back together, because my eating had gone completely awry, away from what I was used to eating, because I was caring for so many people and wanting to please the palate of everyone else.
Yeah.
I was last. I was too exhausted to do what I knew I needed to do for myself nutritionally. And so I knew that I had to get my mindset back together before I could really focus in and get back on track with my nutrition and food and so forth.
So I'm gonna go back to what you said about the stimulants, mental, emotional, and how they, even physical.
Yeah.
So we know that perimenopause, menopause is going to show itself from a physical standpoint.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
We know that we're not going to feel good. That was one of the things that I told my doctor, and she agreed with me when I started working with the functional medicine team. She said, there's nothing about your blood work that shows that anything's fatal, right? Like there's nothing like that. She said, but you just don't feel good. And I said, I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
And what I did not, so I didn't even this was another thing that kind of was the impetus to me doing the research and trying to figure out, well, what I started listening to podcast episodes on menopause, different health related podcasts. I was reading books, and I started noticing depression, and I started noticing, like, I would wake up with anxious thoughts. Like I would literally wake up with anxiety.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm like, where is this coming from? This is not me.
Yeah.
I don't function like this. It wasn't until, and again, the natural default is to think that something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Right? It's no one ever, especially women who are 40 and up. We don't naturally, and I will keep saying this because I want this to stick with someone, that the default at that age is to think about something else. Meaning to think that possibly the reason why you're going through this stuff is because of this cause and this effect, or this cause. The effect of why you're having menopause, anxiety, the effect of why you're having these depressive thoughts when it's not something that's normal for you. It's different if you have lived your life and you've struggled and battled with depression, and you've battled and struggled with anxiety, but for something to come out of the blue, right?
Yes.
The default. And so when I started doing this research and I started coming around all of this, and I was able to start connecting the dots and see, girl, ain't nothing wrong with you. This is what's going on. Like when our estrogen, Teresa, when I found out, and this is what I found out even about being pre-diabetic. When I was listening to this podcast, this doctor was talking, and she said, when your estrogen levels, progesterone levels, testosterone levels start declining, as they do when we go into perimenopause and menopause, when those levels start declining, other numbers and levels start increasing. Right? Because they're like, what's going on? Something's not right. The main things that makes this body function are not there. So now it's going through this like fight or flight mode in your body. And your numbers are like, like all over. But women, because this isn't a regular conversation, and it's so taboo to talk about women's hormonal health. Even though it's a natural part of life's progression, women don't naturally think, oh, maybe my numbers are up because I need to get my hormone levels checked. Or especially if you've had hysterectomy, you definitely need to go talk to somebody because you're at a huge deficit. So I go back to that with what you said. It's like not even realizing that that was possibly the cause to the effect that you were experiencing.
Or even if a woman would go and get her hormone levels checked, right? They come back normal. Or, a woman at a certain age would expect estrogen to be, down, but no one has ever explained that estrogen is responsible for so much more than just reproduction.
Everything.
It has a hand in everything. Who knew? Like, I had no idea.
Yes, everything. I was reading this book, and this one doctor said, the one thing that she would tell women who are in their 20s, right? She said mid-20s. She said, if I had the opportunity, and I always say, if I had like the biggest platform ever, and I can give one message to women everywhere, this is what I would tell them. When you're in your 20s, mid-20s, where everything is at the height, you're living your best life. Right? Your hormones, your eggs, you popping out eggs like crazy. Life is great. You should get your hormone levels checked every year from that point on. Because that gives a true baseline to what balancing looks like. So we hear a lot of balance your hormones. And for the longest time, I was drawn into balancing your hormones. Like I was drawn into that because that's all I heard. But then after I started doing this research, I was like, well, balancing your hormones is kind of weird. Because what are we balancing them to? Number one, we don't have a baseline. No one told us at 20 years old to get our hormones checked. So you have a doctor that's basically telling you this is what the average hormone level should look like. So we're going to try to balance it to that. Which is crazy because your average, realistically speaking, could be different from my average.
Absolutely.
So now you're trying to balance my hormones to hers. And what's, you see how that's weird?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So like, that's what she said. She said, I would tell them to get their hormones checked, full panel hormone levels checked every year so that by the time they get to perimenopause age, they actually have a baseline.
Wow.
So that when doctors are either replacing their hormones with therapy or they are doing something, food or whatever, to balance your hormones, they actually have truth behind what that balance should look like for that woman. For that woman. And I was like, wow, the things that we learn in hindsight, because obviously for us, too little, too late. We just do what we do, right? Now, but for the generation that's coming, I think that's what our platforms are about. It's like helping the ones that are coming now.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, who's going to help them? They're going to be in the same place we're in 20 years from now.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. And I look at my daughter, and she's kind of naturally roped into all this.
Yeah.
By
default.
Right. By default.
Yeah.
But when she'll be open to hearing it when she begins to experience different things on her journey as a
Right.
woman, right? And I'll be prepared to tell her,
Yes.
Yes. And educate
Which is
her.
so different from us now.
Right.
Because what our mamas told us,
Right.
nothing.
Right.
And with all due respect, they didn't know.
They didn't
right?
know.
Me and my mom lived
Yeah.
a mirrored life. She had a
Mhm.
hysterectomy after she gave birth to me.
Oh, okay.
So for 50 years, my mother has not had any reproductive anything.
Okay. Yeah.
And I lived, my life is mirrored to hers.
Yeah.
Right. And so she didn't know what to tell me. When I found out that I was possibly going through menopause, I actually found out because I was having like all these really bad hot flashes and stuff, and my body was like really weird.
Yeah.
And I'm a vet, so I was talking to my my primary care.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I was talking to the gynecologist at the time that I was working with at the VA.
Yeah.
And she was listening to all my symptoms. She said, "Oh yeah." She's like, "You're going through menopause." You know what my mama said? I was visiting her. My mama talking about, yeah, that's probably true because I remember that same stuff. Ma'am, were you ever gonna say anything?
Right.
Like she never said nothing. She was like, I remember going through that. I was like, Bobby,
Yeah.
why did you tell me anything?
Yeah.
But I just also think it's because like how much are they gonna say? They don't really know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They don't really know what to say.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about even what you're doing now and having a 15-year-old daughter. Not only is she going to be aware and alert when those conversations start happening when she gets older, she knows she can go to her mama.
Absolutely.
And her mama's actually going to have commentary to share with her.
Yeah.
Or at least be able to point her in the right direction of getting the right information, which is so necessary at this time.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think that is the other thing that I wanted to say. So my mom is 75 years old and she's going through a lot of like bone density issues. And she's going through a lot of she's just having a lot of joint stuff going on with her bones and the decline of the strength of her bones and degenerative type stuff in her L, the L's and the C's and all that's in your back.
Yeah.
And so I went to visit her and I just started thinking about different things based on a lot of the research that I've done. And it automatically came to me, Teresa, where I said, my mom has not had any reproductive organs for 50 years.
Right. Yeah.
And the light bulb went off. And I said, this is what it looks like when you don't have estrogen and testosterone and progesterone, when your body is not functioning as it was created to function and you never do anything about it.
Right.
And so she's having all these degenerative issues. And I said, Ma, have you ever talked to the doctor about that? And she said, no, because I never thought about that. So I have one of my best friends who's going through the same thing that my mother was going through with her. She has some degenerative issues with her bones and stuff like that. Yeah. And I know that she had a hysterectomy. She also had her ovaries removed. And I said, let me ask you a question. This is me doing all my research. I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm acting like I am at this point because ain't nobody else telling me nothing. So I'm asking my best friend, I said, do you think, or do you feel like your degenerative issues in your bones and your joints and back and all that got worse after you had your hysterectomy and after you got your ovaries removed? She said, absolutely. So what I'm saying is, this is a big deal. It is. Because if women don't know how to, so that's why they say as we get older to lift weights versus cardio and stuff, right? Because we lose muscle and our bones start declining and stuff.
Yeah.
But more importantly than that, when we talk about how much estrogen affects that.
It does, yeah.
So when you think about my mom having gone 50 years with nothing.
Yeah.
So her body has not been functioning like a woman's body is supposed to function.
Right.
And we have so many women who have these questions like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I gaining this weight? Why are my bones like this? Why?
Right.
Nobody's saying this right here is what you need to be looking at.
I think, we just chalk it up to getting older.
Right.
This is what's supposed to happen as we get older.
Right.
But it doesn't have to. It
Nope.
doesn't have to. And I think, it's important to to shout it from the rooftops that they're now, to go through menopause in 2024. I'm truly grateful because there's so much information and resources available to us now as opposed to 100 years ago, right? But like I love that they're through that information we can figure out, and through people like me and people like you, people can do something about it. People can have information to be able to take to their doctors. Like, look, the research is saying this, that, and the other. What can you do for me?
Yeah.
Because it's really important to be able to have these conversations with your doctor. And if they're not listening to you, then maybe find another doctor.
Yeah.
Who does listen to you,
Yeah.
and who is open to hearing what you have to say and really understanding what it is that you're dealing with, rather than just writing a prescription, right?
And attaching a pharmaceutical resolve.
Yeah, because all of these ailments, they got a pill for that.
Everything. Yeah.
So, but if you don't know, you'd be prone to taking their suggestions, and then you're loaded up on these,
which brings on a whole other set of issues when you're locked into a ton of pharmaceuticals now.
Absolutely.
Because you're not really dealing with the thing.
Right.
You're just treating the thing.
Yep.
So I'm a huge proponent of functional medicine.
Yeah.
So functional medicine, I have my traditional medical providers and professionals. But when I was introduced to functional medicine, that was really what started me on my Get Better journey.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, they focus on nutrition, they focus on acupuncture, and they focus on chiropractic medicine, and then they focus on supplementation, different things. They look at the entire body, blood work, a full panel of blood works, and they're just not looking at the basic stuff. They're looking at everything. So I do want to ask you, nutrition. So a lot of what you do as a health coach lies in the space of nutrition and making sure that women in this phase of their life are guided properly from that standpoint. So how do you work with women from a nutritional standpoint? What are some of the things that you maybe test for, or how do you know what's appropriate for women at that, in that space?
Well, and really nutrition, baseline nutritionally, following good nutrition is basically kind of the same across the board. I think for us at this phase of our lives, anti-inflammatory foods are key, right? Because estrogen plays a role in fighting inflammation within our bodies. So without estrogen, we don't have that protection per se. So we need to make sure that we're consuming an anti-inflammatory diet as much as possible. And that is vegetables, fruits, complex carbs, lean protein, lean meats.
So whole foods.
Good fats. Absolutely good fats, and water.
What's an example of good? So the reason I'm asking this question,
Yeah,
is because when people hear the word fat, their mind goes to what society tells us fat is.
right.
And same thing with carbs, but we also know simple and complex, and we know the difference in good and bad.
Yeah.
When we come to that word fats, what's examples of good fats?
Yeah.
Because our body does require a certain amount of good fat to be able to survive and thrive.
Sure.
So what's some examples of good fats?
Avocado oil, avocados, olive oil. I would say butter, but organic, grass-fed, good butter, preferably ghee. And those are the ones that I typically use. I stay away from the seed oils, and soybean oil, and vegetable oil and corn oils. I stay away from those. Those are pretty inflammatory. Yeah.
You said the word inflammatory, girl. That's a big thing with menopause.
Yeah.
People, the C-reactive protein numbers,
Mhm.
that's another thing that we have to get out there. Women are going to start seeing that C-reactive protein test, those inflammatory
Yeah.
numbers increase,
Yeah.
and not realize that inflammation, inflammation can also come from food, right?
Right.
The wrong foods.
Yeah.
But at our age
Mhm.
and where we are in the transition, that
Yeah.
inflammatory number comes up because the estrogen is down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's really important. So food is, we love our good food. We were talking about that
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
But I think as you get older, um, your definition of good food needs to shift and
Yeah.
adjust, right?
Yeah.
Because we can't do the burger and fries like we used to do.
Mm-mm.
Burger and fries can be good,
Mhm.
but our bodies can't handle it the way that used to be able to
Right.
handle it.
Yeah.
And so therefore the definition of what's good, what tastes good has to shift.
Mhm.
And me, I used to be more of an emotional eater,
Mhm.
right? Like, those comforting foods when you're going through whatever it is you're going through mentally.
Mhm.
If you're feeling anxious or depressed, I want some, macaroni and cheese.
Right.
Right.
I want some comfort food.
I want some
I want to
comfort
comfort what
food.
I'm going through right now.
Right. Right.
Right.
But it's not doing my body good.
Yeah.
And when I made the decision to shift and come away from that, so now maybe comfort food is more of a balance, right? A big old salad,
Mhm.
with lots of nutrition
Mhm.
in it can be comforting, or it is comforting for me now.
Mhm.
I find it that way because you know my body's going to feel good from it versus
Yeah.
not feeling good.
I think when you come into that awareness, that
Mhm.
helps with the transition.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, when you come into because there are times when, people are they don't want they're just not going to make that change.
Yeah.
They're not going to make that shift. And for whatever reason,
Yeah.
it's okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think what makes it easier, the transition easier and the shift
Mhm.
is easier is how you just described, like understanding how that affects your body.
Yes. Mhm.
I remember when when I first started working with a functional medicine doctor, I paid to have a food intolerance test.
Uh-huh.
And so the one that I paid for tested 100 and maybe 70 foods.
Okay.
And so basically what it was through my blood
Mhm.
work, this particular test, the one that I paid for, they tested for the body's reaction to all these different foods.
Okay. Okay.
And that was when I found out that even some of the good foods,
Mhm.
my body was intolerant to.
Sure. Yeah.
And then what I also learned was that it ebbs and it flows.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's a certain time in your life where your body is not going to digest these foods, or there may be an intolerance with these
Mhm.
foods. And then there are
Mhm.
times when you can possibly add those foods back in.
Yeah.
And your body can tolerate it better now.
Yeah.
Obviously, the one that was consistently on that list was dairy.
Yeah.
Like my doctor is like, we are never, like, this is never an ebb and a flow.
Right.
This is always a no.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And the gluten was another one for me. So gluten is an inflammatory that I had to learn.
Sure.
When I was going through all this other stuff. And it's hard with gluten because everything is pretty much made with gluten.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everything
Yes.
got gluten in it to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, there's just trying to teach people to just know how to balance. I think that's the best word that you said.
Mhm.
And the best word to adopt for all of this is just really try to understand what a healthy balance looks like for you.
For you.
For you.
Absolutely.
Don't look at what somebody else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about that with a previous guest. Don't look at what somebody else is doing because what works for them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I have a really difficult time like following people that have like this just one-dimensional look at. You have to be inclusive and think about different people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Within that demographic. Because it's just true that what works for you might not work for me.
Absolutely.
Because of how my body is
We're all
created,
different.
what I've gone
Mhm.
through,
Mhm.
what I have versus what you don't have, or
Yeah.
what you have versus what I don't have.
Yeah.
So, what are some takeaways though, Terisa, when you think about your health journey from where you've been to where you are now?
Yeah.
What are some takeaways that you can kind of live by?
Mhm.
And how have they shifted you onto where you're going now? Like, where do you see yourself going now with all of this? Because I know you just shifted back into this with this whole midlife foolishness,
Yes.
which I think is a great, by the way, if you're gonna do health coaching with women in this space, you can't get more targeted than that.
Yeah.
And you will have a never-ending supply of clientele.
Yeah.
Because women are just going through this more and more. And perimenopause is hitting people earlier now.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing I wanted to also mention was that the message, or one of the message that I want to convey, is that it's not our fault. Like, grace is a big word for me, like allowing yourself grace, because I think I spent some years just kind of ashamed.
Yeah.
Like, just, ashamed that I had gained all this weight. What, you learn this stuff. You're a trained health coach. What happened? And not wanting to coach other people because I felt sort of unauthentic, and so I just wanted to put that out there, allowing yourself grace, not feeling bad about where you are in your stage of life, if you've gained weight or if you have these health issues, because I'm sure a lot of women may think, well, how did I get here? What did I do? What did I do wrong?
More often than not.
Yeah, I thought I was doing what I'm supposed to be doing, even mentally, because the society that we live in isn't very supportive.
I was going to say society lends itself to that quite frequently.
Yeah. It's not very supportive of us mentally and physically, especially us as Black women, right? I think we've been dubbed as being, the superhero, caring for all and everyone and being savvy, and while we are all of that, we're also human, and our doctors, who we're supposed to trust and whatnot, they don't have the information, so how are they able to convey it to us? And so I guess I just wanted to mention that grace is huge.
I will also add to that, Terisa.
Yeah.
Grace is absolutely important. And so with what you said about the doctors, giving the doctors grace because they don't have, but then also realizing that sometimes you have to pick up that mantle for yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
You have to pick up that mantle. Like, I just look back, if I had not, I wouldn't know half of the stuff that I know now.
Yeah.
Simply because the doctors that I had been so reliant upon for so many years, just from a medical standpoint, they didn't know how to help me. I remember getting a blood test done with one of my primary cares, and her response was, well, your hormone levels are consistent with someone in menopause. I'm like, I know that. Are you going to explain to me what that means? She couldn't.
Yeah.
She was a physician's assistant. She couldn't. It was at that moment when I realized she could not. She did not have the ability or the capacity to be able to explain to me what that was. And I knew at that moment, Makiba, you got to figure this out on your own right now.
Yeah.
Until God places you in a position where you're with another health professional that has the expertise and the ability, you got to get out there and find out. Otherwise, and so I think that we have to, while we're giving them grace, we do have to give doctors grace too.
That's true. I agree.
Take that and find your own. Don't just settle in thinking, oh, I'm sick. This is how it's going to be. Well, let me just figure out how to adjust my life.
Right.
No, I would still be sick 3 years later. Had I not done that.
Yeah.
So sorry, I just wanted to intervene there and just say that to add to what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with that. I'm sorry, you had asked me a question.
That's okay. I messed it up. Girl, I messed it up because I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No, I was just asking, how has it shifted you into Like when you think about the takeaways from your health journey
Yeah.
and what you've been in, how has it shifted you and where is it taking you?
Yes. It has shifted me. That mental piece was just huge for me. Because I knew that was my first step. And I wanted to get, because prior to all of this, I was generally a very positive person, very optimistic about, life and things that I wanted to accomplish and do and be and move to and that kind of thing. But during this period, I was not. I was not. And so shifting mentally, getting my mindset together has made all the difference in the world to get me back on track. And then to be able to pull it together enough to be of service to others. Um, so um, so that was huge for me. I would not be able to move forward had I not done that. And so when once I was able to do that, I've lost some of the weight, which I'm extremely happy about, and that has shifted me physically with more energy and focus and all that sort of thing to be able to move forward in this space too. And I just feel like the sky's the limit. I just want to help people, as many women as I can, in this way. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's so funny how things go back to mental, don't it? Like mindset.
Yes.
It really does. It goes back a lot of what we do, a lot of what we experience, a lot of how we shift and how we transition really has to go back to what we're intentionally setting our mind on. Because things aren't going to change physically yet. It's just not, that's going to be the last thing that changes.
Yeah.
But what can change more swift is how we, how we embrace our mindset, how we embrace our emotions, how we manage that moving forward. So this is a question that I ask everyone as we get ready to close. Imagine that you're sitting next to your 21-year-old self. What would you tell her?
I would tell her that you are enough. Who you are, what you have going right now is enough. Stop stop reaching for what somebody else has or how somebody else is, thinking that you need that for yourself. You are enough. I think, I spent too much of my life thinking I wasn't enough. Yeah.
Where do you think that came from?
I don't know. I don't know. I've thought about that. Trying to figure out where that came from.
I feel like we all have gone, if we're honest. I feel like we all at some point in our life have experienced that.
Yeah.
Feeling like we're not enough.
Yeah.
Feeling like we're never going to be enough. And I feel like there's something that has contributed to that for each one of us.
Yeah.
It's different for all of us. But the one commonality is we all at some point in our life, because and the reason I say that is because I asked that question, and that answer is probably is the most centralized part of the answer.
Okay. Yeah.
Is people they're saying to themselves, you're enough.
Yeah.
Because we go through life on this journey of trying to become enough.
Right.
Or to become somebody.
Yeah.
By a standard.
Yeah. Yeah.
That we don't even know where this standard came from. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great answer. I agree. It's probably the same thing I would tell myself.
Yeah.
Amongst other things.
Yeah.
But I would definitely, as you're going through life, always remember that you are enough.
Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Terisa.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
It has been a great conversation. Yeah. Again, I always love one thing I can pat myself on the back. I'm gonna give myself some props right now. Let me sit up straight in this chair, talking this microphone. Yeah. One thing that I give myself prop for are the people that God, and it's not me, because I don't know everybody that I book on this podcast platform. I'm introduced to people.
Okay.
People give me suggestive, guests. And then when I sit down and I think about who I want based on what I want to talk about, um, God has led me to some really great people to spread the word based on what He gave me the platform to do.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate your contribution today.
Oh,
I
yes.
thank you for the work that you're doing because I know being in the thick of it, I know that it's necessary. And I wish you well with it. We will have Teresa's IG handle for you to follow. If there's anything else that you would like for me to share with them, I'll get that from you to put in the show notes so that people will know how to connect with you. But I do think that if you are in this space of 40 plus, that's my ministerial platform as well. I am focused on the people that's like me. That doesn't mean that I'm negating the people who are younger than me, but we're trying to help the people right now who are on this journey moving forward. But if you are in this space of your life and you need guidance, you need answers, you need help nutritionally speaking, you need help emotionally speaking, holistically speaking, reach out to Terisa, Health Coach Terisa, on Instagram. So again, in the show notes, I'll put her information there so that you can connect with her. And having said that, this concludes episode 10 of the Healthy Woman Podcast. My name is Dr. Makiba. I am your host. I hope you have enjoyed this time with us. Once again, 2 things I want you to do. Number 1, share it out with somebody, anybody, everybody that you know to get the word out. Help us to double our impact. Help us to expand our reach. Help us to get the word out with what we're doing here. I pray every time I get ready to record that God would expand our reach so that we can reach people that need to be connected to this platform. And we cannot do it by ourselves. We need your help to do that. So please do that. And the second thing that I'm asking that you do is to please give us a 5-star rating on the Apple streaming platform or whatever Spotify. Y'all, I'm not 100% like into Spotify because I'm an Apple girl. So I would want to say to give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, but I'm not really sure if that's what you do on Spotify. So I'm just going to say comment and follow us if you're on Spotify. But please connect with us the best way that you can. And if you are looking at this on YouTube, please give us a comment. Let us know how this episode has helped you. And make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube platform as well. I'll see you all in a couple of weeks when we get ready to drop the next episode. But until then, please remember that I love you and there's nothing that you can do about it. All right? Peace.